But these people are banging on.
They are.
Anyway.
That might prove the point.
So, what did you say?
Everything the mind grasps, it wants to possess for all time.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it trying to grasp any of it?
Why?
It's for the future. It's because it thinks it might be useful. So it's the thing about memory. Mind wants to grasp things and possess them.
What do you mean by possess them?
To acquire them as a memory.
Mm-hmm.
As if that will be useful. It's all for the future. And then at a certain point in life it's realized, well, actually, I won't be around. You know? And then the question comes, well then, why am I still so avid to have, to possess, to record? It's a reflex. And it's for the others. Yeah, at times I've thought that memory might be the whole, certainly of artificial intelligence, if we're talking about artificial intelligence, an associative memory really does pretty much the whole show.
Right.
It's almost a truism in that field. And it does go back to Aristotle anyway. It's old. But it's not even, it's not difficult to implement that in different ways. So what's the question about consciousness then? Why is that a trick? Why is it magic? Why is it only us? I like this image that I got from, the father of psychophysics, Gustav Fechner. About 1850 or so, 1855, he wrote his big book. One of these big German tomes on psychophysics, which is the measurement of sensation. He was quite a strange fellow. Basically, he described things with consciousness as they're concave. It's a great observation. It's like when Alan Watts was saying, well, consciousness is the world from the inside. Convex and concave are complementary. If there's a concave, there is a convex. They come in pairs. You can't tear them apart. Can't have one without having the other. As the world presents to us in perception, we're seeing the world's outsides in perception. It creates a world of objects, a world of convexities. That's what we see. We see the outsides of things. They have insides. We could go in there, we could tear them apart, and everything that we would find would still be more convexities. Even though we know there's always an inside. But that which perceives, the thing it can't see, is the seeing. The thing it can't see is that which sees, which is itself, as the consciousness. And so I call that from the inside. It's concave.
Yeah.
It's the concavity. And by that token, every time we see a convexity, should understand, well, it is also a concavity. There is an inside there. The world is conscious in every part. It's just, we're in a bubble, so we only see this bubble. My bubble. I don't know. It's a nice poetic description, and Fechner described it as, well, there's the day side and there's the night side. So the convex for him was like, that's the night side. But there's this other way of looking at things, and it's exactly the same world, but it is filled with joy and light, and that is the day side. That's the concave. I mean, it's playing off these opposites. To me, it's just remarkable that this guy, he was a mystic. He would wander around talking to the plants. Gustav Fechner.
Uh-huh.
The plants would talk to him. You know? He was really an eccentric. He cut a window in his own eyeball so that he could look at his retina as it was doing its thing. It's fairly extreme. Yeah. So, on that view, there's nothing mysterious about consciousness. It is universal. Everything in the world is conscious. Is an occasion of consciousness. If we are not perceiving it ourselves, well, we have our own place in the world, in this body. So
The fact that it is universal doesn't make it less mysterious.
no, it's completely mysterious.
Well, you said it's not. There is nothing mysterious about consciousness. Everything is mysterious about consciousness.
Well, yeah, but it becomes of a piece with the mystery of why is there a world. You know, it's the same mystery. If the consciousness weren't there, the world wouldn't be there. Yeah. You know, this idea of the Turing test that's going to test whether something is conscious, that can pass the test, that you can submit a bunch of questions, and by the answers you can judge, oh, there's something there that is conscious and it's intelligent and it's a being like I'm a being. But we can't know that about anyone. There's only one person we can know it of, that person is conscious. And that's ourselves, and that's only when we happen to be conscious, which isn't all the time, apparently. I wouldn't know because I'm not there, but so I always had the idea that we could invest ourselves, that we could put ourselves within a different shell. I think this is maybe not such a strange idea, but that we can, well, like the classic example is the blind person with the walking stick. Where they are is there at the end of that stick. So there's all this matter that's not them, but they are at the end of the stick. Their consciousness is at the end of the stick. They are perceiving the world at the end of the stick. Yeah. Through the sense of touch, through this organism that we are, but the organism is not bounded to the physical body. The physical body can be extended into the world in various ways, and that's interesting. Well, it's this thing that Polanyi is on about the subsidiary, the relationship. What we attend from is always subsidiary to what is attended to. If you didn't have what we attend from, there would be no attending to. But what we attend from is this ground, and that ground has no boundary.
Yeah.
Boundary would be something defined, but the ground is not defined. By definition, the ground is that which is not defined. It has no boundary. The only boundary it has is the placement of the focal object, the figure within the ground. That has the boundary. That we can know. So it's a sort of, again, it's almost like a concavity. The concave shape that this convex body makes in consciousness is the only boundary we have for this boundlessness of the ground. And it has exactly the same shape as the object of attention. Then the ground would be this body which in the subsidiary sense can inhabit any part of the world with attention. You know, using this body in a subsidiary way. Like I like to say that.
When you say body, you mean mind as well.
Oh yes, the body. Well, I do mean the body is sensate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I like to say that the nervous system speaks frequency. That there is a common code into which every sense modality gets translated. It operates by frequency. And, you know, there's a whole body of mathematics here. The most accessible way into this is the music theory, the harmony theory, that music is wavelengths. It is frequencies. They are two complementary images of the same phenomenon. One takes place in time primarily. One takes place in space primarily, although those are just kind of reference grids for an orientation to the same phenomenon. But vision, memory, touch, certainly. This psychophysicist von Bekesi,
Yeah.
telephony engineer, and he did all this wonderful, wonderful research showing how you could translate one sensory system into another sensory system. That always impressed me so much. And this other man, a neuroscientist, neurologist, Paul Bach-y-Rita, he's the one who got people to see through their skin, see through the tongue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Synesthesia.
Synesthesia, but very precisely engineered exploitation of an innate synesthetic capacity that is universal to this body. This body has all the intelligence in it. And that intelligence that thinks it thinks, yeah,
Yes.
the one that Descartes was quoting,
Yes.
about I think, therefore I am.
Yeah.
You know, that is actually the head on the stalk that talks, but it is the body. It cannot be disembodied, but it can be it can inhabit other bodies. So following that line of thought, if robots are provided with sensors and effectors and an associative memory in between to map sensors to effectors,
Yeah.
that is sentient. It has volition. It seems like what we would...
How does it have volition?
Well, because it's got effectors. If something happens, it can react in a certain way.
Is that volition?
Well, if it moves the equivalent of muscles, if it has mobility, if it can withdraw itself or extend itself for a purpose, then I don't... It seems to fulfill all the criteria of what biological organisms do.
I don't see volition there. You have to will yourself to something, and just lifting your arm is an automatic
It's always a moot question.
gesture.
It's a moot question. Why did I do this? Why did I do that? Why did the chicken cross the road? You know?
But do you think it's adequate to explain it that way?
I think there's no bottom to that question. There's always an antecedent cause that is inaccessible to this consciousness as to why it does anything or desires anything. That's why, if you ask where did a thought come from, and you really look at it, you go, oh, well then whose thought is it? Because it wasn't my thought. I found it here. I was the site where it happened, but did I do it?
Mm-hmm.
No. Not if I really look at it. The whole thing's paradoxical. The whole issue of free will is fraught with paradox, and in the spiritual, religious, mystical, theological tradition of the West, the European world, Christian world, it's a big deal. Free will's a big deal. But the sense of the great masters, thinkers in this tradition, the great mystics in this tradition, is that the consensus is, to the extent that my will is not mine, but thine, that I get closer to God, the less there is of me present. Until ultimately, thy will be done. It's not me. So it's this understanding that I am most myself when I am least myself, and that's why it's paradoxical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the teeter-totter of the paradox is the same question, I think, as this question about volition in animals, in machines, in humans, in me. It has two faces, convex, concave. They look completely different, but it is a teeter-totter. And they flip into the other. Flip, flip. Like one of those Gestalt pictures. So this is all leading up to trying to answer this question about what has consciousness to do with artificial intelligence. And so I guess I'm just feeling my way towards this understanding that there's no objection to attributing consciousness to a machine and an automaton that we've made. By the same token, there's no obligation to extend consciousness to that automaton.
Yeah.
So whose decision is that? It's the eye of the beholder. You know? It's thrown back in your own lap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's thrown back in your own lap.
And how does a machine feel about that?
Well, I don't think there's anything to prevent assembling a machine to have a singular point of view, a machine to which you could pose that question, and then it could tell you.
Yeah.
You know? It would be an assemblage of modules. Would you believe what it told you? Would it believe what it told you? No idea. Yeah.
It's like the question of what's the meaning of life.
It is like that question, yeah.
And we'll look for one.
Yeah, but it's in the looking, and it's the thing that's just around the corner. The meaning is never present. It's always just about to show up. It's the anticipation of the meaning that is the meaning. Because the meaning is an impossible completion. You can't complete it because it is the totality. Everything is involved in everything. So it's to possess the meaning is to possess the unpossessable whole. It cannot be encompassed, and one is already it. That's when you say, we are all the absolute, we're all the absolute all the time. Well, it's true. That is the concavity to which I've been referring.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so singular, because there's only one of it. Singularity is what it is by definition.